Okay, there we go. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jen Bentley, and I'm the Alumni Engagement Officer for the Faculty of Health. But to start, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that much of the work of the University of Waterloo takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldeman Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work toward reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is centralized within our Indigenous Relations Office. So if you have any questions or looking to learn more, you can check out their website through the University of Waterloo. So I'm excited to welcome everyone to our first Alumni Office Hours event for this spring term, featuring our REC alumna, Maddie Campbell. Bringing back alumni to connect with students is an important priority for both the Faculty of Health and also the broader university. Alumni help show students what's possible after Waterloo, and the success they've had and stories they share will help show students what is possible for their future. So we do host Alumni Office Hours every term. If you have any careers that you'd like to see or learn more from, I'd love to know what those are. So feel free to share your ideas in the chat, or you can email me at any time, jennifer.bentley@uwaterloo.ca. So in order for us to make the most of this small group session, I'd love to start with some introductions, and hopefully if the students who are here are willing to turn on your cameras and introduce yourselves, that would be great, just to get a sense of who's here joining us. So you could tell us your name, what program and what year you're in, if you're in co-op, or maybe what interested you in joining today. So I can start and then I'll call on people. But so I'm the Alumni Engagement Officer for the faculty. I'm also a kin grad from Waterloo, and I'm here to provide opportunities for our alumni to connect with students and help get them ready for when they graduate and join the alumni network. Aisha, would you like to go next?
Yes, for sure. I just had it on mute because there's some conversation going on in the hallway. But so I'm Aisha. I am the Alumni Advancement Assistant this term for the Alumni Office as a co-op student. And I am going into my 3B term of health studies in September. And yeah, that's my short introduction.
Great, thanks. Sherry, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Sherry Sutherland. I'm the Director of Advancement, and sadly, I'm not a University of Waterloo grad, but I'm a wannabe. So I just want to welcome everyone who's here, and again, welcome Maddie and thank her for giving us her time today.
Thank you. And John, is it?
Hi, I'm John, and I'm in 4th year health studies. And what interested me was it seemed Maddie was involved in a lot of leadership experiences. So I've been wanting to develop some leadership qualities. So that's what interested me.
Great, thanks. And is it Ying Hao?
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
I'm a student in the recreation and leisure studies, and this is my final term as an undergraduate student. But I'm in the regular program, so I'm not in co-op. That makes me a little bit stressed because I don't gain so much social experiences. That's why I want to join some volunteer positions and part-time jobs this term. Actually, I've got a position in Radisson as a peer leader. So wow, that makes me less stressed, but wow, that's me.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will.
Actually, can I turn off the camera? I feel a little bit shy.
Sure, that's fine, no problem. Yeah, thank you all for being here, and we'll do our best to answer questions you have, and help you out with any learning that you're looking to get out of this session. So I have a bio to read for Maddie, but it's probably better for you to just introduce yourself and tell everyone your story. So I will just pass it over to Maddie Campbell, who is here. She is a rec and sport business grad. And instead of reading her bio, I will let her give you the full story of her journey from Waterloo to now.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. It's a long bio too, so you don't have to read all of that. I actually got to make that bio as a backstory for a podcast I was featured on last year that spoke to educators and people who work with high school student leaders all across Canada. And that's a pretty overarching description of what I do now. I am currently the operations coordinator at a national nonprofit and registered charity called the Canadian Student Leadership Association. And on July 1st, I'm actually transitioning into our executive director's role. So I'm really excited for that opportunity. We've never had a full-time executive director before, and that's because our association was built by teachers who wanted to be doing more for students outside of the classroom. And so for the last really 35 years that we've been around, our association has sort of been run off the corner of a kitchen table by retired teachers doing it after school. And our staff team was built from retired teachers and administrators as well. So I'm actually succeeding our current executive director, who is a vice principal in Edmundston, New Brunswick. So she's already retired once. This is number 2, and I'm really excited to take over for her. But a little bit about me. My name is Maddie, and I was born and raised in Waterloo Region, particularly lived most of my life in Waterloo. And I went to high school here. I've participated really thoroughly in our community here. And then I finished that off by attending the University of Waterloo starting in 2014. And I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Recreation and Sport Business in 2019. So it feels weird to be that far removed from school. The pandemic obviously speeds up time in that sense. But it was really important for me to stay close to my community and close to my family. If you had asked me through high school where I was going far away, and that was where I wanted to be. And then I started touring schools and asking questions. And it wasn't actually until I got my acceptance to Waterloo that it really clicked for me. As soon as I got that acceptance, I knew that was where I wanted to be. And I actually started my UW experience in the Department of Kinesiology. So I did 2 full years in kinesiology, working towards a Bachelor of Science. And after about a year, realized that wasn't for me. Science was not for me. It didn't fill my bucket. And I really dreaded, honestly, looking at the course calendar. There was nothing I could look forward to in my education. And then I started to get involved a little bit, which I think is really key to who I am. And I think it's a great tool for other students to use to get involved in other activities, to figure out what your values are and what you're interested in. So in my second year, I joined Awesome as a VP of Internal Affairs with a couple of friends that I met through the co-op program. And I met some professors at an awesome event and realized that rec and leisure was my kind of people. I've been involved in minor sports my whole life, been involved in junior professional sport pretty much my whole life. And an arena is somewhere that's really comfortable for me. So explored what it would take to transfer into the rec program. Didn't know that sport business existed, and then found that. So I transferred into rec and sport business the start of my 3rd year, and I accelerated with some extra courses in a semester. I shortened a co-op term, and I was able to graduate the same time I would have when I started my kin degree. So not necessarily recommending that. It's a lot to cram 5 years of a program into 3. I didn't have many courses transfer over, but at the end of the day, it was about doing what I love. And so I'm very driven by my passions and my values. And if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, it's not worth it to me and not worth it to my future in the long run. So that's how I ended up in rec and sport business. I graduated in 2019. And as soon as I graduated, I proposed a position called operations coordinator to the team at the Canadian Student Leadership Association, as well as a 3-year strategic plan of where I thought we could move as an association and the impact that we could have. And I was hired right away. So I started June 1st of 2019, 10 days before I graduated. And I've been with the association ever since. So I definitely created my own role and my own opportunity there. And I know that's not the case with every employer, but I think it goes to show that you can put, your own spin on things, and you have to try. The worst thing that someone can say to you is no. And so there's a lot of other answers outside of that you can work towards as a student. So that's my educational background. In my community, I'm pretty involved in a bunch of different organizations. I mentioned sport as a main one. So I currently volunteer with Waterloo Minor Hockey as a Hockey Canada certified trainer. I actually coach with my dad and a couple of our friends who coached my brother years past. And then I also volunteer for an organization called Rangers Reach. Rangers Reach is the community arm and the community foundation of the Kitchener Rangers, which is the Ontario Hockey League team here in Waterloo Region. And I do everything from volunteer coordinating to social media, helping out on game day with Rangers Reach. And then through other community organizations and initiatives, the Food Bank of Waterloo Region being one of them, a local campaign that's actually happening right now called Farwell for Hire that raises money for cystic fibrosis research, and really wherever it's needed that, calls to me as a volunteer and as a leader. So that's pretty much all about me in a nutshell, and happy to answer questions or anything like that will guide the conversation further.
That's great. Thank you for sharing all that interesting background with us. We just started into our hockey journey with my son this past year, so
it's an intense one.
Yeah. We'll see where it goes. But anyway, so we can start with open Q&A. So if anyone has questions they'd like to ask Maddie, you can raise your hand in the using the reactions button. You can click that and raise your hand if you'd like to ask one. You don't have to turn your camera on if you're not comfortable with that. You can just unmute your mic and ask. And we can just get some questions going, but maybe I can ask the first one. We got some great questions submitted when people registered, although I don't want to steal that from our students who are here, so I won't ask those yet in case they want to, but maybe we can start with just the general, what does a day in the life look like for you in your job?
Good question, because it actually changes pretty frequently. So I have a luxury in my role of really controlling my own time. And I had that luxury before the pandemic. So I feel really lucky to have almost pre-adjusted to that work from home lifestyle before COVID. A lot of my friends who were just starting out in their full-time jobs after graduating or going through for a master's program really struggled with managing their time and setting a schedule for themselves. And I'm really lucky that the team I work with, we are not bound to a 9-to-5 day. We are firm believers that if work is getting done, that holds more value than sitting in a seat for 8 hours between 9 and 5. My work also fluctuates time-wise depending on the time of year. We work primarily with secondary schools across Canada. Our mission as an association is to provide leadership resources, tools, and opportunities to high school students all across Canada. And so with that comes conferences, online programs, virtual consultations with students and with educators, planning one-off events and workshops. So depending on my programming season, my day looks very different. If I have a typical office day, what I would call it, it's mostly replying to emails, doing a little bit of strategic planning every day and looking forward to what our program calendar looks like. And then making connections with people who I work with all across the country who are secondary school educators, or what we call advisors. Not every adult that we work with in a school is a teacher. They might be an educational assistant, they might be a secretary or an administrator. So we use the term advisors to broadly capture all of those people who do excellent things in their schools. So a day in my life, work-wise, is sort of see what comes, which has its challenges, and running programs. A day in my life when I'm on the ground in a different city running a conference. I actually just got back from British Columbia. We ran 3 conferences last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in different cities. So we were up pretty early, 6:30-ish, to drive to our conference location. And then we run a one-day leadership conference from about 8:30 until 2. So everybody gets registered. We host 2 keynote speakers and do a little bit of a Q&A with them as well for our student leaders. Then we go into student-led activity sessions. So students are leading small group activities. We start off with icebreakers, and then we bring groups together to do more team building activities. And while that's happening, I'm working with the advisors in the room to share about the resources that we have to offer and how CSLA can help them bring leadership skills into the classroom. And then we do a quick wrap up. We showcase our sponsors. We work with some really fantastic groups across Canada who have supported our programs for many years. 2 of our main ones for that program are the Canadian Cancer Society and SHAD. So 2 very well-known nonprofit programs. Through CCS, we work with the Relay for Life program specifically. And then we wrap up, say our thank yous, help clean up. Leadership is a lot more than grabbing the mic. It's putting away the chairs at the end of the day. And then we try and head out for dinner with our advisor team who hosted us that day. It's really great relationship builder for us. And especially in these last 2 years, not being able to be in person with those people, it was really special last week to have dinner with those people and catch up. So that's a one-day program in my life. I couldn't even get into what our national conference day in a life looks like. Those are 16, 18-hour days, usually in a different province. I had the pleasure of hosting that conference here in Waterloo in 2017, but those days are quite honestly a blur. So the long story short is flexible is my days. And I'm looking forward to the summer months ahead because it usually allows me to have Fridays or Mondays with nothing on my plate, and I can take an extended weekend to the cottage here and there or enjoy the sun when the sun is out.
That's great. Sounds very, very busy. And yeah, it will definitely be nice for you to have some time to recover and fill up your personal bucket again.
Yeah, the balance is nice. I always know that I can balance out, last week being away for 6 days in a different province and running, 12-hour days with conferences that traditionally this week I would have taken some downtime, but I'm actually getting on a plane on Thursday to go do the same thing out east. So when I get back from that, you can balance it out with an afternoon here and there. And the way our team works is flexible to make that happen. But with the understanding that if there's things that need to be done, they're getting done. So I think it helps our team as a whole function really well and successfully.
Mm-hmm. That's great. How many paid employees are there through the association?
Complicated question again, but getting easier to answer. So technically, I'm our only full-time paid staff person. I work directly with our executive director, who is part-time, and she receives an honorarium, as does our director of communications. He's also part-time and receives an honorarium. he definitely does more work than part-time, but it keeps him busy. So that's his excuse and he'll stick to it. And then I also have a full-time program facilitator on staff right now through a contract with some government support. So that would be the base of our team. And then this summer, I'm in a really fortunate position through Canada Summer Jobs Funding that I have 3 8-week full-time positions on staff and another 8-week full-time position being funded through a secondary grant. So we are essentially doubling our staff team through government funded positions this summer, which is really exciting. And then hopefully continuing on at least 2 of those full-time positions after July or September. So right now it's me plus 2, and hopefully in the fall it'll be me plus 4.
Great. Well, that's exciting, having your team grow. I'm sure you have big plans for that.
Very. It's exciting and it's a lot to manage all at once. But I'm just trying to stick with the exciting side of it.
Yes. Good choice. Okay, let's shift our talk a little bit and talk about your time at Waterloo. So let's talk maybe a little bit about what are some of the skills and experiences you gained during your undergrad that has helped you in your career journey.
So my undergrad journey, I think, is a little bit different from everybody's because I transferred programs. But at the same time, I know a lot of people who transferred their programs, so maybe not that different. But I would say the biggest skill I learned overall through my undergrad was the ability to manage my time. And before everyone logged on, we were having a conversation about, being able to say no to things and balancing your time that way, but also being able to say yes to some things that, provide you energy in different ways. So as a university student, I was working part-time as well. And I know that's a choice that a lot of students make or that they can't make for whatever reason, that they have other commitments, whether it be athletics, whether it be home life. If you are a caretaker for someone in your family, you have other familial responsibilities, whatever that looks like in your life. For me, I was pretty set on, funding my education and making sure that I came out of school with no debt. And that was a big piece of what I tried to balance through school. So I actually worked at Starbucks part-time all through university, not on campus, off campus. And in my first semester, something clicked for me in my work role. And I just got really good at my job. And by the second semester, I took on a promotion that also meant taking on more hours. So balancing work and school was a really big part of my undergrad and making that work for my schedule. Also making it work for my, my invoices from the university to have those paid each semester. And then I think the biggest other skill I learned through school is the value of loving what you do. I mentioned in my introduction, it was very evident early on to me that kinesiology was not for me. And I really struggled with not looking forward to my course calendar and not looking forward to the courses I was taking. I wasn't motivated, I wasn't inspired. And that absolutely reflected through how I was doing in my courses and in my program. So being able to sort of sit myself down and say something needs to change, and really exploring all of those options myself. I think we're often told in university, like, no one's holding your hand, no one is reminding you of a deadline coming up. You really have to self-direct yourself. Self-directing myself through the transfer process, I think was a really big growth moment for me. So taking that risk, but doing my research and figuring out all the steps I needed to take to make that change. So a lot of adaptability through school, a lot of time management, and really just sticking with what I was passionate about is probably the biggest skills I learned through school that I still carry with me in my career. Experience wise, getting involved in whatever, fills your bucket, I think is a really critical part to a university experience. And I regret that I didn't do it earlier. And part of that was simply me trying to find that balance between, working in school and having fun time. And fun time were those experiences that I would have loved to be doing more often. So participating in things like Awesome, as part of the student society, and then in my final year participating in orientation week. Those were experiences that were pretty special to me. And when I was an orientation week coordinator in my last year, that really formed my friend circle for the rest of my university career. And that's sort of what I wish I had earlier. But at the end of the day, I still came out with a great group of friends, a great education, and a lot of really transferable skills that weren't necessarily in the classroom, but were part of the overall experience.
I think it was John who was asking about leadership opportunities. I'm wondering if you have any questions about that related to those roles that Maddie just mentioned. Not to put you on the spot, but if you do have any questions, you can, John, you can put them in the chat, or Ying Hao if you do as well. Yeah, chat is totally fine. If you want to put anything in there, then I can read them out for Maddie.
While you're typing questions or thinking about those, I can say, university-wise, leadership experience is looking for those things, whether it's on campus or external, is really just to connect with as many people as you can who might be able to bridge that gap for you. So talking to people who, are working in the dean's office, working in your faculty office. For me, people like Sarah Houston were incredibly influential in my university career. Obviously such a support with everything in the classroom. But Sarah opened up different opportunities for me when it came to, looking for my practicum. I did my practicum with the YMCA, at the time YMCA of Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo. It's now the YMCA of Three Rivers. Giving me different options when it came to fulfilling some of my electives that actually, gave me more of an opportunity to lead my own education. So from that side, that's a great example of a resource. I think volunteering for local organizations is a really fantastic way to test out some of those leadership opportunities, and really just to be a go-getter. You don't have to be the most knowledgeable person in the room. You just have to be willing to help. One of the things that we work with student leaders on, every day is that it's not about you. You don't have to be the star of the show. I'm very much a backstage person. When I go to a conference, I'm like, someone else take the mic. I'm going to be in the back room, solving problems. Just your willingness to help, I think, is a huge leadership trait. And you can do that in so many different ways, but I would definitely encourage students to explore the community that you have around you here in Waterloo, or wherever you are, if you're still learning from home, and say, I want to help. And, these are the skills I have, but, I'm willing to do anything. I think you can learn a lot about leadership from those people around you. Good question in the chat about building relationships.
Can you, I just want to read the question out so
Yeah.
it's on the recording for anyone who watches this later. So John just asked, you mentioned that you had dinner to build relationships. How did you build relationships during pandemic restrictions?
Excellent question. I'm very glad to be back in a place where we can have dinner with some of the people we work with. But actually it doesn't, building relationships through the pandemic still would have been similar to how we were building relationships in my role prior. So I'm based in Waterloo still, but I work with educators and advisors in every single province and territory in Canada. So to build a relationship, I can't just fly out to BC every couple of weeks and have dinner with them or go for a coffee. And so we actually, use our digital tools pretty effectively to do that, both pre-COVID and during COVID. And I love the power of a phone call. It's great to send an email to check in and see where people are. But it's just as easy to pick up the phone and leave a message for somebody, or to ask them to call you back. And for me, it's about, having conversations with educators about what's going on in their school right now. Leadership is not always a priority in secondary schools. It's seen as an extracurricular in a lot of places. And if you've ever stayed up to date with labor negotiations with school boards, those extracurricular things are a hot topic. They're the first to go when funding gets hard. They're the first to go when labor disputes happen. And so for us to advocate for those things, we need to know what's happening in our schools across Canada. So a phone call to check in. We also have a national advisory council. So we have a teacher or an educator in every province and territory who will hop on a Zoom call with us every couple of months and give a little bit of an update on what's going on. So that really helps us. If I know, from person A in Alberta, what sort of the landscape is, then I can reach out to person B in Alberta and say, hey, heard what's going on up your way. If you need anything from us, let me know. So really just letting them know that we're here to support them in my role is key. And getting to know them along the way to build that relationship is great as well.
That's great. Thanks, Maddie. I think there's a follow-up question. So would you say quality is more important than quantity when it comes to experiences?
Yes, 100%. Sometimes when I'm, introducing myself and talking to students, or whether it's high school students or university students, about my work experience and things like that, I feel like I have a little bit of fear about them thinking that, oh, like that person doesn't have that much experience. They've only had, say, 3 jobs. You would think with 5 co-op terms, you would be coming out with 5 different experiences. That was not the case for me. And I think I'm stronger for it. So my co-op experiences, for example, my first term, I worked for the Toronto District School Board in the Health and Phys Ed department of the school board, running tournaments and doing athletic support. And I worked with 3 other people. So that was a great experience. And then the remainder of my co-op terms, I actually worked for CSLA, the organization I work for now, but specifically working on our national conference, which is called the Canadian Student Leadership Conference. And so I think the quality of doing the same thing, 3 terms in a row and really being able to grow in that role was super beneficial to me, instead of restarting all over, having to prove your value to your supervisors. And you kind of get to this point at 4 months and, they set you free. So for me, I had a very custom co-op experience. I found those 3 jobs with CSLA myself. I didn't go through Waterloo Works. I carved my own path there. And I think that was a more quality experience and set me up for success better than having 4 different experiences through co-op would have. So yeah, I'm a quality over quantity person for sure.
I think what I'd love to add as a co-op supervisor to that is that exactly what you said, Maddie, where I've had opportunities to rehire co-op students and they've returned for a second term. And that second time, they're able to start right away and they're able to get more leadership opportunities that second term working with us, because they already know how to do the job. And so then there's more opportunities for them to lead an event or lead a project and gain some more of those skills, which is beneficial for both of us. I think like it's helpful to me to have someone with that ability and skill set, but then also it's great experience for our students to be able to kind of get those leadership skills on your co-op term.
Yeah, and I think also from the student perspective, like don't be afraid to go back to that person and say like, would you rehire me? Sometimes that might not be a forward-facing opportunity, or even with a volunteer experience, if it was for a special event, after the event, you get your thank you card or email, and things might feel a little bit concluded, but to reach out and really push that relationship forward and say, what else can I help you with? Or is there more opportunity for me here? I think as a student leader, and just as a student in general, we all have those leadership qualities, but sometimes we do have to force our own opportunity. So to take those chances, and like I said, the worst that someone can say is no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think you already mentioned a bit of this, but like finding what the right fit for you is, like what's your interest, and finding opportunities somewhere where you're passionate about the work that they're doing, or the volunteer opportunity, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, and for me, like my interest is, I feel, very niche in student leadership. And when I speak about student leadership, I guess a good way to conceptualize that for the people in the room is that I predominantly work with student leadership or student council programs in a school. A lot of the time, these are the students who are, running your spirit days, like Wear Blue Day. They're the people who are putting together assemblies and pep rallies. They're running fundraisers. So that's like the main group of students that I see. But I think there's also a really strong recognition that student leaders exist in every corner of a classroom. They're the person who, helps their classmate with their homework. It's the person who opens the door for the person behind them. There's a lot of different qualities that student leaders have, that necessarily the raw things. And I never thought that there could be a career in that. So if there's something that you're passionate about that you don't see a cookie cutter avenue to, find the ways that you can explore that, whether it's through, a volunteer opportunity or advocacy, or however that fits for you. It was hard for me to identify that as a passion as well. But getting more involved in those student leadership type experiences, and just being willing to help was sort of what guided me that direction. So, I have a sport degree. I do not work in sport, but I feel like my degree gave me a lot of transferable skills into my sector, which is nonprofit, charity, event planning, event evaluation, programming. All of those things are covered in the rec handbook. It's just not sport-based, but it didn't have to be. So using your education and using those transferable skills to figure out what you want to do, and not necessarily like, I'm in kin, I have to be a kinesiologist. There are other avenues.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to give Yung Hao an opportunity, if you have any questions or looking for any advice as you're getting ready to graduate soon. If there's any topics we can cover for you, let us know in the chat, so we can, help you as you transition.
Yeah, actually, I probably continue the recreation and leisure study, but it will be a 1-year course-based graduate program. So, well, after that, I may choose a job. Actually, I heard that Maddie chooses the recreation and the sports business, right? Actually, I have a double major because I have another tourism development major.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, well, I don't know my direction of the future career, but I think I have a larger range of the choices. But,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe my first choices will be related to the social science. Well, I think what I need is to gain some experiences. Maybe after some years of the jobs, I choose another year of business program. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I think it's good to have so many options and not be closed off to just say, I'm graduating this year, I have to get a job. Both, yeah, after high school, I really wish that I had taken more time. 17 is really young to start university, and I don't think you realize that till you're in your 20s. Like you're a baby, essentially. And I don't think anyone should have to know what they're going to do with their life when you're 17 or 18. So I like that you've kept your options open. And that it sounds like school for you is sort of opening more avenues that you might be interested in that academic feeling. If I hadn't had a sort of career lined up for me when I graduated and had that opportunity, directly in front of me, I think I would have continued my education in the rec department at UW. The culture that they create in the department, I think is really special. Different from my first 2 years I felt at the university. The difference between the kin department and the rec department for me were really big. But also I think part of that is how interested I was in what I was learning. So for you to stay connected in that way, I think is great. And then as you go through your master's, I think any opportunity that you have, especially as we're getting back to, more normal experiences in the community, to try and combine your education with those experiences. So as you talk about tourism and tourism development, like what things in our community would relate to what you're learning in school, and try and connect those lived experiences. I think to see them in person versus seeing them in a textbook or a slideshow will also give you, a really good idea about what you're passionate about, what you like, and, maybe how you want to spend your day to day. So in terms of finding experiences to, find that direction, I would say use what you know from school, but try and get some of those lived experiences and connect the dots there.
Great advice.
Good.
Okay, I have another question that I'll ask for us. So, knowing what you know now about starting your career, is there anything you would do differently if you could go back?
I actually don't think so. And I say that because I've been given a lot of flexibility and a lot of creative freedom in my role. So, if I had been in a role where I couldn't take risks or try new things, I think that would be the one thing, knowing how that worked for me, that I would want in a role, to not be restricted to, a checklist, a 9 to 5. For me, I never thought of myself as a creative person until those restrictions were taken away from me. I feel like in school, we function with a checklist, 12-point font, whatever style of font your prof wants. Those are the first questions you get when you have something assigned to you. And so to take out those things and say, just do something that makes sense and is good, and for me as an association that makes us better, those are what you're striving towards. And I think it's really unlocked a creative side of my brain, and has made us stronger as an association in some of the things that we're innovating towards. So if that hadn't existed, that I think has been the most valuable learning experience for me in my role, is learning about that creative side that I have. But in terms of finding my role, I feel like a little bit of a unicorn. Like it was, sort of right place at the right time, but I did a really good job creating that opportunity for myself. And I wish that more people had that experience, or, the confidence to go get that position or create that position that they want, and that organizations were open to those sort of things. Because I think when you develop a really clear vision for yourself, for an organization, for, the mission that you want to achieve, if you have the passion behind that, you're going to do a lot better in your role than someone who has 3 degrees, but maybe less of those experiences and less of that passion, where they sent a resume to 50 different organizations and yours is the one that popped up. So really just, be open to the creativity, be open to trying new things and taking risks in your role, and following your passion is, I think, my biggest pieces of what I loved about finding my career.
Yeah, that's great. And it's amazing the things that can be accomplished when you take away the restrictions that students have been used to and have had placed on them like all through their education.
Yeah, it's a unique sort of transition too through your education, because in high school you obviously have tons of restrictions on you, and there's a lot of hand holding, like a paper due this day, you have a test on this day, you're constantly being reminded. And then university, that side goes away. You are responsible for your own destiny, but there are still so many expectations on you, that I think, we do the hand holding, but you're almost putting yourself in a smaller box, right? And I think in university, more so in high school, you're really comparing yourself to other people. Who is performing in my class? Whose hand up is all the time? What groups are, giving the best presentations? When you're working for me, in a small organization, there's no benchmark. You are setting that tone. And so to be the person who sets the bar and wants to succeed and then beat your own bar, I think is a way better way to look at things than, oh, that person did a better group presentation than I did, or like their slideshow was better than me. And those are all things that you're making up in your head, and they're not helping you. I think, setting the bar for yourself is helping you.
Definitely. One thing I thought I'd mention, and I don't know if you made use of this at all, Maddie, in finding your own co-ops and kind of, creating your role for yourself, but also encouraging students to be on 10,000 Coffees and make use of our alumni network, because there are tons of alumni on the 10,000 Coffees platform who have basically signed up to say, I'm here, I'm happy to connect with you and share my advice and help you however I can. And Maddie is one of those people. But it's a great way for you to even just search through careers that our alumni have. You can sort specifically, you can look through people with rec degrees or health degrees, and see what kinds of jobs they have. That might also be a good way to find new areas that maybe you weren't familiar with. I just like to encourage students to look through that and feel free to reach out to people that you'd like to learn more about their job or their career path, or find out if their company hires co-op students, that sort of thing. Because, as we have learned from Maddie, she created her own co-op experiences, and it's definitely something that you can do for yourself if you want to do the work to go find the right opportunity for yourself. Maddie, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I love the point about finding different, career paths that people have taken through whatever program they completed at UW, because if you, saw my name and my role next to recreation and sport business, those things probably don't match up to you. A lot of students in that program are looking to work in the sports sector. They're looking, whether it's professional or nonprofit sport, a sport is typically attached to that. So, they're looking to speak to the executives in the NHL and things like that, where I still have all that experience on the volunteer side. For me is where my sport piece comes in. But I think there's a lot of skill and a lot of interest in, other areas of programming, right? Sport and programming for me, kind of the same thing. You're just getting to a different target at the end. So just to explore those careers. And also I know for sure in the rec program, I'm not as familiar in kin or health studies, but in the rec program, you have the opportunity to do a practicum where you volunteer for credit. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity that everybody should take hold of. You get a really great working experience, but instead of getting paid, you get a credit in your semester. I did my practicum with the YMCA, and I did it in a summer term. So it actually felt like, you know, when you're in high school and you take a spare, you had a little bit more free time in your everyday. And then I spent one full day at the YMCA, and I learned a lot being integrated with their administrative team and their programming evaluation team. So taking opportunities like that, you know, if you meet someone on 10,000 coffees, or if you go to a networking session put on by the faculty or by alumni, you know, they might not be hiring a co-op student, but they might have the time in their schedule to supervise you in a practicum and bring you on as a volunteer. 8 hours a week for, I think it's 15 weeks. That's a pretty solid learning foundation, and it'll help you decide if, you know, that's something you want to do. You're going to gain some skills from it. But I think from an employer perspective, it's a lot more flexible than trying to figure out how am I going to pay this person for 4 months, 5 months, especially if you're talking to someone like me who works in nonprofit in the charitable sector, where money doesn't grow on trees the same way it does in the private sector. So if that's an avenue of interest for you, then get the credit, but also get the experience of volunteering.
Yeah, I love the rec practicum option. I have hired many practicum students in the past, including this
So
term.
good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, so I don't know, Maddie, do you have any final, you've given tons of great advice and information tonight, but just wondering if there's anything else you want to add before we wrap up. And I'm going to put your contact information in the chat so that students can connect with you if they'd like to afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Send me an email if you have any other questions, or I'm happy to do one-on-one Zooms just the same as you would with 10,000 coffees. So consider that your coffee chat invite. No, I think my biggest piece of departing advice or wisdom is respect that you've been through a lot in the last 2 years, and it hasn't been easy. But at the same time, don't let that restrict you from opportunities that will present themselves, you know, in the next year or two. I think everyone has been through the same thing. And even if you're feeling like you aren't qualified for those experiences or that you don't know where to find them, just try. I think that's the first step. And I hope that you can find something that, you know, sparks something for you and is a passion for you. Because I truly believe that if you're doing something that you love, it makes your life, your work life, your personal life, all the better. So finding that passion for what you do, I think, is sort of my trademark on how I like to look at my role. And I hope that it would have the same impact for you.
Wonderful words of wisdom. So on that note, we're approaching 5 o'clock. So unless there are any last minute questions, I'd just like to take this moment to thank you so much for joining us, Maddie. It was great to hear from you and get all of that great information. I will mention to everyone that you will get a survey in your inbox. So if you don't mind taking a few minutes to complete that survey and share your feedback with us about today's session, that'd be great. It just involves choosing a happy face, a variety of emojis. So it's nice and quick and easy to fill out, and it just helps us get some feedback on these sessions. But otherwise, you can look forward. We do have another rec speaker in June for our alumni office hours, as well as other kin and health alumni this week and then again in June. So encourage you to check out the rest of the sessions that we'll be hosting this term. And the one in June for rec is a speech pathologist. So that will be another great session if that's a career path that's of interest at all. But thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. Again, Maddie, thank you so much for giving your time to talk with our students and share your insights. We appreciate it. And we're so proud to have all of our alumni engaged and participating in opportunities like this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that will be a wrap
Thank
for
you.
tonight.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you so much, Maddie.